Welcome to West Nile Virus. What is going on, everybody? I am your host, Caleb Nale, and I see that it is wrong on the on YouTube. I will change that. And Josiah West. We make up the West Nile Virus. Please spread the virus on YouTube and on X at West Nile Virus. You can also follow us. I'm there, Caleb _Go Dogs. Josiah's there, Josiah _WNV. Today we got a packed show for you. A lot of college football. We have playoff ranking reactions. We're going to talk about our Heisman Frontrunners. We got to talk about the coaching carousel because it has officially begun, Josiah, and there's a lot to talk about. We also have to get an update on Yeovil, and the show is taking us this way, James Harden and the Clippers. Josiah, but first, how are you?
Me? Oh, I am good. I'm good. I'm, wee bit tired. I was up at 5 a.m. this morning, but other than that, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit under the weather, so sorry if the energy is down a little bit. My throat is killing me. We've been shaking raisins, and I've just been breathing in dirt for the past 2 days, and it has finally caught up to the back of my throat. And
well, that's not good for you, Caleb. So
no. And my nose is like full of black boogers. You know, when you go to the mountains and you spin. Yeah. All right. Enough about me and all my problems. Let's
talk about some players in college football's problems. or coaches' problems.
Yeah, I was going to say, or more so coaches. Well, let's start with the Heisman, Josiah.
All right.
A lot of people are talking about Jaden Daniels now has solidified himself as the Heisman front runner. Vegas odds is saying that Bo Nix is the Heisman front runner. Do you agree with the media and Jaden Daniels, Josiah? Do you agree with Vegas and Bo Nix? Or do you have someone that is not being talked about as the Heisman front runner?
Well, I have some people who I am tempted to throw out there, but I don't think they are even remotely realistic. Those people are mostly defensive players, including Jalen Green from James Madison, who's leading and who's the sack leader right now. But
throw him on the list. Put him on the list, baby.
Don't think it's realistic, but yeah, hey, look at him, dude. He's killing it. 15.5 sacks on the season. That is amazing. Okay, he's great. You should watch him play.
You should watch James Madison play in general.
Yes, we're going to watch James Madison. Yes, absolutely.
Apparently, no one is watching. No one in the college football playoff committee is watching James Madison play. It's ridiculous. Sorry, I'm getting too excited. Go ahead, Josiah.
No, it's James Madison is killing it. You're absolutely right. Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix are both very good players. You will notice that the thing they hold over the other top, 6 or 7 or 8 passing leaders is completion percentage. Bo Nix is sitting at almost an 80%, 77.7% completion percentage.
He's on fire.
Yeah, he is on fire. 3,135 yards and 29 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Amazing stats. Jaden Daniels has slightly worse completion percentage at 71.4, but still better than most other people. And then he has 3,164 yards, so beating out Bo Nix by 29 yards. And he has 1 more touchdown and 2 more interceptions. So, he's also been sacked a lot more. He's been sacked like way, way more. He's been sacked 20 times. Bo Nix has been sacked 4 times. That is 5 times less. Or 5 multiplication. I mean, Like it's a multiple of 5 less. That's a lot.
This is not
to
a
be
math
clear.
show.
No, it's not. Anyways, my point is both of these guys have very good stats, and I have been seeing a lot of people online talking about how the Heisman is not it's not the best player on the best team. That's not what it's for. It's supposed to be for the
Oh,
best player in college football.
I'm so happy you bring that up. We're gonna talk. Keep going, Josiah. Keep going. I'm gonna
And
respond.
yeah, and I mean, look, if it now, of course, if it straight up went to the best player on the best team, then we just have to give it to Brock Bowers. But he hasn't played very much, so it's okay. But but since it is supposed to be for the best player in college football, who can we knock out in these front running rankings immediately? And to me, I honestly, as impressed as I am with Bo Nix this year, I do not think he is one of the best players in college football. I think
What?
Oregon is a very good team. I think Oregon is a very good team, and I think there's a lot of quarterbacks who could have success in his situation. Now, that's not to say that what he's doing is not impressive. I'm just saying that I am not necessarily any more impressed with what Bo Nix is doing than Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix Jr. Couldn't think of his name for a second. I want quite badly to throw out Michael Penix Jr. as my leader, but he has too many interceptions. He just does. He's got 7 interceptions compared to everyone else's like 4 or 2. And statistics matter a lot. Little statistics matter a lot in this conversation.
They
So
do.
I'm going to go with my Heisman frontrunner being, despite everything I just said, I'm going with
Carson Beck.
Vegas. I'm going with Bo Nix. I think he has the best chance right now to win it based statistically.
Because
He
you're
has
talking
2
about numbers.
interceptions. Yeah, talking about numbers, he's 29 yards behind Jaden Daniels. That's dead even, basically. He's
Well,
got the
Josiah,
highest completion percentage, I think, in college football.
the difference though is
Amazing stats.
that Jaden Daniels is doing it with his legs. That's the argument for Jaden Daniels.
That's fair. I don't have a retort to that.
Well,
And Jaden Daniels, to me right now, it's between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. And I'm saying Bo Nix because Vegas. I'm just going with Vegas because they
yeah.
seem to know better than the media. But
If you are watching college football, Bo Nix right now is playing the best football at the quarterback position. And right now, the Heisman is a quarterback award. So you're going to give it to Bo Nix. I think Jaden Daniels is a close second.
mm-hmm.
And of course, now that. Okay, well, I got to start with this. We're going to talk about this conversation now, okay, about the Heisman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah.
all of a sudden, this conversation comes up about the Heisman is actually an award for the best player in college football, not the best player on the best team. Really? That's what I've been trying to say for the past 10 years. But nobody wants to watch West Coast football. Finally, West Coast football is good. And the SEC bias, ACC biased, East Coast biased media, because that's where they are, and they're not going to stay up until 1 a.m. watching college football. They watch Jaden Daniels. They're not watching West Coast football. Now they bring this up. Absolute joke. Okay. Where was this conversation when Christian McCaffrey was on the field at Stanford, destroying records, Barry Sanders' records, who's considered the best running back of all time, breaks his records. Stanford is a good team, by the way, and you give it to Derrick Henry. Not taking anything away from Derrick Henry in that season. Very good. Christian McCaffrey, all-time leader in all-purpose yards, ever. More than Barry Sanders. I will always be salty about that. And now,
Look,
especially that they bring up this conversation now. You can't do
anyone who's a fan, even remotely, or knows anything about the Stanford, whatever the mascot is, the trees.
Cardinals.
The Stanford Cardinals. Cardinal. What is it?
Cardinal, not plural.
Yeah, it's cardinal, not plural. That's right, because cardinals would be a bird. Stanford Cardinal, as in red. I'm sorry. I've never understood it. It's never made any sense to me. Anyways, yeah, the Stanford Cardinal tree, they had Christian McCaffrey, and he did have one of the all-time, in fact, it was really the all-time great season for, statistically speaking, the all-time great season for a running back in the history of college football, and they gave it to Derrick Henry because he was on Alabama, and Alabama was really good, and also because he's big and scary and probably threatened to beat up their dads. But
they legitimately said in that time, we cannot give it to Christian McCaffrey because Stanford had, I think, 2 losses. So you can't lose 2 games and win the award. Perfect. Jaden Daniels is not your Heisman winner then. Neither is Bo Nix. So you better start talking about Carson Beck, J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Travis, Michael Penix Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., Hudson Card. You better start throwing out those names.
Jalen Green from James Madison.
Jalen Green from James
undefeated.
Madison. Yeah, exactly.
Look,
these people
it's plagued college football for years, right? This is something that has plagued college football for years and years and years, from award winners to the college football playoff to the way people rank. Huge, glaring, glowing amounts of inconsistency. I just it's like Las Vegas in the middle of the desert, like there's nothing and you can see it right there.
Right.
Bright lights. It's so much inconsistency. It's terrible. And I mean, I think it's a great transition to our next topic of conversation.
I agree.
In general, the college football playoff rankings, which they've already shown massive amounts of inconsistency this year. We've now moved Georgia to number 1, which a lot of people are.
Josiah, can I just add my front runner? I agree. Bo Nix is playing the best football, but if we're going to stick to Heisman front runner, I think Penix should be the Heisman front runner right now. Okay, there, and I think Beck should be number 2. If we're going to stick to the old school Heisman way of doing things, it's Penix, then Carson Beck. But I agree with Vegas that Bo Nix right now is playing the best football. Okay, sorry, college football playoff rankings.
Absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. But yes, college football playoff rankings. So Georgia has now moved to number 1. And a lot of people are really mad about this because they're saying that based on previous standards, that nothing should have moved, whatever. I do disagree a little bit with that, actually. This game was the game everyone had circled for Georgia as like, oh, if Georgia's going down, it's going to be this one. This one's going to be tough. And they came out and won in a really, really big way. 52-17, that's huge. It's a really good win against a good ranked opponent that they had in the top 10, mind you, up till this week. So I understand bumping Georgia up to 1. What I don't necessarily understand is everything else. because also, by the way, bumping Georgia up to number 1, it doesn't matter, right? Like, realistically speaking, it doesn't matter. Ohio State being at 1 or 2, who cares? They're still in the playoff. It doesn't matter at all. Like right now, Ohio State's number 2, right? But if they play Michigan and beat Michigan, they're going to be 1. So
Exactly.
And then if Michigan plays Ohio State and beats Ohio State, they're going to be 1. So it doesn't matter really where they are right now. This doesn't matter. People are mad about this, and I don't really understand why. Because the top 5 spots are all undefeated teams that the college football playoff the committee has already made a statement of, we are A-okay with letting any and all of these teams into the college football playoff. Approved. And I say that because there are other teams that are undefeated, like Liberty or James Madison, or there's at least one more, but I don't know who.
I don't think so. I think
Maybe
that's
not.
it.
I think
They're
that
not
is it.
ranked.
Tulane lost.
Yep.
So, yeah. But, yeah, no, they're not even ranked.
We're going to get there in a sec. But my thoughts on the Georgia-Ohio State is Georgia beat, like you said, top 10, Ole Miss team, number 9 in the country, 52-17. That's a big win. Ole Miss looked good coming into this game. They did. They looked very good. And by the way, Ole Miss was in this game for 1 quarter, maybe 1.5 quarters. And then Georgia just blew them out. And they did it in convincing fashion on the ground. The homeboy from Fresno, Kendall Milton, represent 9 carries, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Milton looked good, but the O-line looked great. Ohio State played a 3-6 Michigan State team, or 3-7 Michigan State team. Now they're 3-7, and beat them 38-3. Yes, good win, 35-point win over Michigan State, but that's expected. Georgia blew out a top 10 team in the country, so of course they're going to get number 1. And people can talk all they want about strength of schedule. I 100% agree. Georgia and Ohio State do not have the toughest of schedules. They've not played very many people. But the nice thing is that we know we're going to get Georgia-Bama in the SEC championship. That's a huge game. Bama's good. And we know we're going to get Ohio State-Michigan, like you said. And we don't know for sure yet, but Washington is going to play. I mean, they still have very good teams on their schedule. So does Oregon, and we still have the Pac-12 championship, which is going to be between 2 very good teams, most likely 2 top 10 teams. Well, depending on how Oregon State finishes out. But my biggest question is, what does Washington need to do, Josiah, to get in the top 4? They've been 5-6 in that 5-6 ranking this entire time since college football playoff has been released. I would think Washington is a better team than Florida State. Florida State, I mean, they've played some good teams, they've played big name teams, but the Washington win over Oregon, to me, should put them top 4. If for some reason, we're talking Bo Nix is the Heisman winner, Washington should be top 4. What are your Washington?
Here is my So here's the way I see it. Okay, Washington, by every metric, any metric you want to go by, my metric, your metric, the metric of the college football playoff, they have the best win out of these top 5. They have the best win is Oregon. They're number 6 in the college football playoff right now. They have Bo Nix, who's playing lights out. They have a whole bunch of really good players. They've got an amazing coach, Dan Lanning. He's been doing really, really well. I mean, huge props to that guy.
I hate Oregon. I absolutely hate Oregon, and I love Dan Lanning. I hate that I love him. I hate that I love him.
But yeah, no, I mean they've been killing. He's been killing it in Oregon. They're doing really, really well, and Washington beat them, and it was really close. That's fine. It can be a close game against a good team. That's fine. Doesn't matter. What my point is, okay, they have the best win. So they should be above Florida State for sure, because Florida State hasn't beat almost anyone. The only team they have beat that was ranked at the time, they beat LSU week 1, and they beat Duke, which was who was ranked at the time in the AP poll. Other than that, they haven't beat anyone who was ranked. Michigan and Ohio State have also only beat, or Michigan has only beat one ranked team, Penn State, who
Ohio
also
State beat
lost to
Penn State.
Ohio State. Yes, Ohio State also beat Penn State, and they beat Notre Dame. So Ohio State's beat 2 ranked opponents. My point is, Washington is the best win. They should be above at least Florida State and Michigan, and they should probably be above Ohio State and realistically above Georgia. They have the best win. They have a top 6 win. Like this Oregon is at this point in the season number 6 in the college football playoff, and you're not you're basing your rankings by your own mouth, straight from the horse's mouth, dude. We are basing the rankings off of strength of schedule and quality of wins. What better quality of win can you look for than beating a top 6 opponent, and who's only number 6 because because they lost to you? They'd be number 1 or 2 if they hadn't. Like, you can't tell me they wouldn't be. It's ridiculous. Genuinely, it is my belief that Washington should be number 1 right now, if not number 2. But my rankings would go Washington, Georgia, Ohio State, Florida
Michigan.
State, Michigan.
Oh.
And if Michigan beats Ohio State, I'm perfectly fine with bumping Michigan up to 1. That's fine. If that's the metric we're going by, I'm fine with it. It wouldn't make me mad. But that's the way I'm putting it. And don't come at me for saying Michigan's bad, by the way. I still have them at number 5. Let's not go crazy. They're still top 5 teams in the country.
And there's still a lot that's going to happen. So as long as they get the top 4 teams in the top 4, I'm going to be happy. But
exactly.
we just have to recognize that they are inconsistent with their own metric, and actually it's good for us because then we get to talk about it.
Yes, I mean that's true. But also, and we'll talk about this every single week, and everyone does talk about this every single week, but the amount of stuff that there is left to possibly happen. I mean, literally up until conference championships, we're going to be talking about this. There's no telling what could go on, because right, Michigan, Ohio State, they're going to play, and we know that. That's fine. They're going to play. One of them is going to win. That the other team will then be 11-1, and the other team will be 12-0. So now we've got, okay, one of these teams is going to the college football playoff right now. The other one isn't. But then there is no other option for Washington and Oregon than to play each other in the conference championship.
Well, I want to bring this up too. And this is what another thing that really gets me going, and I'll be quick on this. The SEC really needs to change to a 9-game conference schedule, because this is what really benefits them. So this week, the 9-game conference schedules, we have Utah playing Arizona, because Pac-12 is a 9-game conference schedule. Oregon has to play Arizona State, and we're going to talk about this on Friday. We're going to go over these games, but Oregon's a 23.5-point favorite. This is a trap game. Oregon, Arizona State, that's a trap game. Good defense. Then Washington, 5th ranked team in the country, has to go to Corvallis Oregon and play Oregon State, where Alabama gets Chattanooga, where Ole Miss plays UL Monroe. So though this is what actually hurts the SEC, but at the same time hurts the Pac-12 because they cannibalize each other. These 9-game conference schedules. In my opinion, it should benefit the Pac-12 because, according to college football playoff ranking, it should benefit them because they're playing a tougher schedule, tougher teams. But this is what really grinds my gears, Josiah, when the 8-game conference schedule teams schedule the Chattanoogas and the UL Monroes of the world, where the 9-game conference schedule, now we have Washington playing Oregon State, and that could ruin their season. That could ruin their hopes of a college football playoff appearance. It could ruin their hopes of a Pac-12 championship appearance. So really everyone needs to go to 9-game conference schedule because there's enough teams in every conference for you to play 9-game conference schedule. Please do that. If you're losing a game against Chattanooga, I think that's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you can't argue, Nick Saban or anyone in the SEC or in the East Coast now, that this is the best conference around. We need a break like this. Washington has to play Oregon State, and that is a tough, gritty team. I would hate to play Oregon State right now. So, anyway, that's my whole thing.
Alternatively, everyone could move to an 8-game conference schedule, and everyone gets a break.
True.
But
let's keep moving down the rankings. So we have Texas at 7, Bama at 8, and then we have our top-ranked 2-loss team in Missouri. I am actually okay with this. They have the 2-loss Missouri over a 1-loss Louisville. I think Louisville deserve to be probably above a 2-loss Missouri, but Missouri's one loss, not their one loss. Their most recent loss is to Georgia, and that's a good loss. Right. And this Missouri team has looked good. I mean, they looked way better than Ole Miss against Georgia, so I'm okay with that. Then we have Louisville at 10. That rounds out your top 10. Right outside the top 10, Oregon State is 11. They're above Penn State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and LSU. LSU is your top-ranked 3-loss team at 7-3. They're ranked number 15 in the country. I mean, you have a loss to Florida State. Jane Daniels is playing well. Your defense is not good. I really want to see an LSU Iowa matchup or a USC Iowa matchup. I'm leaning more towards LSU now. We talked about USC Iowa. Now let's talk about LSU Iowa. Iowa is 16. They only have 2 losses. By the way, sneaky game with a Michigan or Ohio State versus Iowa in a Big Ten championship. That could be a lot of fun, and I think it's still hilarious that we're talking about Iowa because they're moving on from Brian Ferentz, and they're still great though. They're still top 20. They're number 16.
Iowa's defense is still stellar, and that's not going to be changing as long as they've got Kirk Ferentz at the helm. But their offense is so incredibly inept this year. Brian Ferentz has still got the reins, dude, and until that's gone, I cannot trust them in any big games against anybody with at least one 3-star player on their defense because, dude, their offense. I'm pretty sure my high school's offense could do better, and they haven't won a game in 5 years. So it's really bad offense. Like LSU, yeah. Good offense, bad defense. Colorado, good offense, bad defense.
Hey.
USC, good offense, bad defense.
Hey.
I was the exact opposite.
They scored 22 points on Rutgers. They won 22-0 last week. And their quarterback threw for 223 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. It's worth something.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he got hit on the head before the game.
Yeah, things are looking up. Or
something changed is my point.
Yeah.
You know,
But,
we'll
I mean,
hit the
back to the
computer.
rankings. Do you think Iowa is better than LSU? What
No,
a
I think
no?
LSU would win that game if
Okay.
if they played head to head. But the thing is, I mean, they're both teams that are obviously severely lacking in at least one department.
Right.
So it's like, for me. Like, okay, well, unstoppable force, unmovable object. You know, a great team's going to have both, but these teams very clearly have one. So it's, whatever.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
I would put, honestly, I'd put Iowa above LSU just for the wins, but
Right. Well, the other thing is that North Carolina is an 8-2 team, and they are below 3-loss Arizona, 3-loss Tennessee, and 3-loss Notre Dame. I think that's okay because your loss was to Virginia. Now, Virginia has really been trying to. They're like the upset team. They played somebody else real close this week. I forget who it was. Uh, but the other team that people need to start watching out for is Kansas State. Kansas State is starting to figure things out. They're playing well. Utah's at 22. And then here we go again. Number 23, Oklahoma State. You have a good win over Oklahoma, but you just got smacked by UCF 45-3. UCF is a 500 team. They're 5-5. I get
that's
it.
rough, dude.
Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma. But if you lose to a 500 team by 42 points,
Oh my
you do
gosh.
not deserve to be ranked.
No. They need to get
Tulane,
dropped out there. By the way, I mean, I know you haven't finished your rankings. You're rounding out the rankings, but there's two teams that deserve to be on the 25 at least.
tell me.
Liberty.
Yeah.
Liberty is still 10-0. And look, I know their wins are terrible. I don't care. They're 10-0. And James Madison, the Dukes. Dude, you gotta get them on here at this point. I mean, it's ridiculous, guys. They're 10-0. They beat Marshall. They beat Georgia State. They beat UConn. South Alabama. Virginia. They beat Virginia. Okay, look, Virginia, not a bad team. Not a bad team, guys. Virginia
No.
isn't a bad team. They beat Virginia. Look, they've got some okay wins. I don't care about their wins though. They're 10-0. We're 10-0 at this point. They have 3 less losses and 3 more wins than a ton of teams that are ranked. Put them on there. 24-25 at the very least. I'm begging you, please.
I guarantee you, JMU puts up a better game against UCF than Oklahoma State. I guarantee you, James Madison, somebody write this down. I'm guaranteeing James Madison beats Kansas. I think they beat Kansas. I think JMU, I shouldn't say they beat Tulane. Tulane is a good team. They're not the Tulane of last year, but they're still good. Tulane JMU would be a lot of fun to watch. But you can't tell me that you're not going to rate James Madison. Like I said it before earlier in the episode. They don't watch JMU football. They don't watch. That is a good team. JMU is so good. I know Kansas is up and down.
yeah.
Oklahoma State's up and down. But you can't rank someone after getting completely demolished by UCF 45-3. Kansas lost to Texas Tech. Texas Tech was good before we played any football because everybody was talking about them. Then they showed up on the football field, and we found out they're actually not that good this year. They're 500 too. So, and then I mean, you lost on a last-second field goal to Texas Tech, but you lost to Texas Tech.
If it were up to me, I would bump out completely Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Both those teams would be out of the rankings, and I'd move up. James Madison to 24, Liberty 25.
I actually like Kansas State. I think they're playing well right now. So I would leave them in. I'm curious. Arizona, they really like Arizona at 7-3. and especially after a win over Colorado, I don't know. I mean, Arizona's been there.
I will say, bummer that we weren't able to pick our games this past week, because
That's on me.
I would have picked that Arizona game perfectly.
That's on me.
I think we
I
knew
had
it was coming.
technical difficulties. All right, just let's talk about college football coaching carousel. Jimbo Fisher's gone.
Absolutely.
And everyone wants to know who's going to be the Texas A&M coach. And immediately people run to coaches like Dan Lanning, Caitlin DeBoer. People ask Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, I don't mind people asking. But the audacity for people to ask Dan Lanning and Caitlin DeBoer if they're going to take the job at Texas A&M is outside of my thinking, because why would they leave? Now, I will say this. Dan Lanning will not leave. He's got a great program. He loves Oregon. He's going to stay there. They would leave for the money, by the way. That's why. But they are winning in a big-time school with a great program. Caitlin DeBoer, however, will leave. He will leave for more money. I know this because he did this to us. Caitlin DeBoer. Caitlin DeBoer, a week before he left, said, "I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay. I want to build this program." And then he left to Washington. That hurt. Caitlin DeBoer will do that to you, Husky fans. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to do it to Washington. But
in no way would that surprise me.
I don't think he should, though. Washington is undefeated. You're probably going to play for Pac-12 championship. You're probably going to play in the if you could beat Oregon again, you're going to play in the college football playoff. Texas A&M, I mean, maybe it's all on Jimbo Fisher. You have freak athletes there, great recruits, and you can't win with them. So maybe you see that and you think, well, I can go win with them. But why? Why do that to yourself? I think the better job is Oregon and Washington. And the fact that people are asking Pac-12 coaches about going to a subpar SEC school, I don't get. I don't get it.
I mean, I get it in that there's more money, right? There is more money in the SEC.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it is, really. But I am glad Dan Lanning came out and said what he did, and I believe what he said. Now, could he be pulling the wool over all of our eyes? Maybe. But no, he seemed sincere. He seemed very sincere, and what he said was, if you haven't heard it, was basically, people wouldn't be asking about me going to coach there if they didn't want what we've got here. And we've already got it here. So why would I go anywhere? So that was his point. And I 100% agree with it. It was perfectly said. And I quite happy with his decision. I hope he stays at Oregon, and I hope Caitlin DeBoer stays at Washington. We need more good Western football teams. With the days of UCLA and USC dominating are,
gone.
They're gone, realistically. They're a little up and down, but they're gone. So yeah, no, we need some good teams out there in the West, and Washington and Oregon are a great team. I mean, you have a rivalry in the West of two amazing teams that can play each other every year with two great coaches. I would be really bummed to see either of those coaches leave. I have seen people bringing up names like Urban Meyer. I swear, if Urban Meyer comes back to coach for Texas A&M,
there's no way.
I cannot be held responsible. That is the dumbest. I hate it. I hate it.
I can tell you do not like him. I could tell.
I am not a fan of Urban Meyer. Big names that are being thrown around, though: Cliff Kingsbury and Glenn Schumann, Georgia's current defensive coordinator. There's also some other Lance Leopold from Kansas,
Huh?
Lane Kiffin, Mike
Now,
Elko from Duke, and Jeff Traylor from UTSA.
I really like Leipold from Kansas and the Duke coach. I forget his name. I think those two
Yeah.
would probably be the ones to take it. There's no reason for Lane Kiffin to leave. He can do. He's doing a fine job at Ole Miss. There's no reason, unless he wants a ton of money. And we've seen Lane Kiffin will jump around and do that. So I don't want to take
Right.
anything away. I don't want to say he's not going to do it. I just don't think he should. The other name I'll throw out there is Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb is offensive coordinator for Washington. And I think it's probably his turn to try and take over a team, see what he can do. I think he can be very effective, and everywhere he's went, shooting Fresno, he was really good. Really like Grubb. He's doing great in Washington, and I would love to see if it's Ryan Grubb, if it's because of Ryan Grubb that Kalen DeBoer has all this success, or is it because of Kalen DeBoer? Let's see if they separate and see if both of them can be successful. But I like all those names. The other one, they asked Deion Sanders. There's no reason for Deion to go. His kids are in Boulder. He's trying to build a program there. But what I find interesting, and kind of changing the subject a little bit, is that players are now decommitting from Colorado. I saw one, and the quote was, "I don't know if Coach Prime's going to be there when I get there, so that's why I'm decommitting." Interesting. Does that kid know something that we don't? I don't think that Deion's going anywhere because he would have to be winning, and they're not.
Right.
It does sell a lot of tickets, though. The other thing that I think is pretty funny in the coaching carousel is that Boise State fired their coach, Andy Avalos, after they destroyed New Mexico. After a win, they fired Andy Avalos. I don't know. I don't get it. I think it would be good for USC and Lincoln Riley to go get Andy Avalos as a DC, but they probably won't. But I just think it's funny that our rival, Fresno's rival, fires their head coach after a win, and we've actually been talking on Beware Bulldogs about how Andy Avalos is suspect, and we're not sure if he's going to last much longer. And a lot of the Boise people were saying, no, Andy's a great coach. He's going to be fine. And then they fire him after a win.
Well,
very
seems like he was fine, but too bad.
Yeah. The other coach that is rumored to get the can is Chip Kelly from UCLA. They say the rumor is UCLA is going to fire Chip Kelly after the USC game. Okay. My thought process behind this, first thought is why would you wait to fire him after the USC game? Why not just fire him? So if you lose USC, you have an excuse. Or two, do you just know it's not going to go well against USC and you're ready to move on from him? I have a hard time saying that I agree with this, with UCLA wanting to fire, with the rumor that UCLA wants to fire Chip Kelly. It's taken too long, I agree, for Chip Kelly to figure out how to do things at UCLA, but they are a good football team and a good defensive football team, surprising enough, with Chip Kelly. They have a freshman quarterback in Dante Moore that's figuring out, and that's going to be good. UCLA is going to be pretty good in the coming future, and I don't think you should move off of Chip Kelly yet. I understand it's been too long, but I don't get why the rumor was started. It may just be a bunch of stupids out there leaking these things or making things up, but I don't think there's any reason to move on from Chip Kelly yet. I don't know, Josiah. Let's see how everything plays out. What do you think?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't really understand this when I heard it. I'm not completely aware of how long Chip Kelly has been there, but it doesn't feel like very long.
He's been there quite a while, actually.
Yeah. I know, but for some reason it doesn't feel like very long. But that's because I haven't got to watch much West Coast football until recently. That being said, so he's been there since 2018. He started off his first few years at UCLA 3-9, 4-8, 3-4. Then he went 8-4, 9-4. He's currently 6-4. Look, he had success. He grew the program. I don't really understand them getting rid of him, especially not like this sort of pre-firing stage where it's like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna get rid of him, but in a few weeks. You know, like you don't hand him a 2 weeks notice. I don't think that's how that works. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know.
Maybe
But
contract. Maybe it's because of his
yeah,
contract. I'm
maybe
sure they
something
could
to do with
save
his
more money.
contract and
The longer they
probably, and
wait,
I'm sure
the
they've
more
got to
money they
buy him
save.
out. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't get it. I do agree though that it's taken a little longer than expected for Chip Kelly to find success at UCLA. We'll see what happens. All right, real quick, let's move on to college basketball. Real quick, I watched 2 basketball games last night. I think it was a Champions Classic. They're calling it Duke, Michigan State, Duke, Michigan State, Kansas, Kentucky. Super good basketball. Is that good English? It was so fun to watch. I love college basketball. College basketball, I hate to say this, Josiah, and I don't hate to say this, but I know there's a lot of college football fans that listen to this. College basketball has to be the most fun sport to watch. It's fast
it
paced.
is fun.
It's faster than football, and there's a lot of energy, especially when there's two good teams going at it. But okay, let me get to Duke, Michigan State. Duke, Michigan State is a fun basketball team. Duke is definitely the better team, but I will say Michigan State went on some runs where they looked very good. The effort on defense is there. They move the ball well. They just don't shoot well. I mean, I think they were 4 for 22 or something like that from the 3-point line. It was bad, real bad. But they're getting the shots that they want. They're getting the looks that they want. Once they start making them, this Michigan State team can be very good. Duke and Coach Shire have finally found a rhythm, I think, and they finally know who they are. Duke could be a problem this year. I think definitely better than last year. They should make a run in the in the tournament. So should Michigan State, but the Big Ten is a very good conference. We'll see. Kansas, Kentucky. Kentucky looked very good. We know Coach Cal likes those young freshmen, and they like Coach Cal, and they're freaky athletic, but they don't do well later on in the season because they lack the experience. This Kentucky team might be the team that finally gets Coach Cal to the Final Four again. They're that good. Now, they lost to Kansas. Kansas is the number 1 team in the country. Hunter Dickinson had 20 and 20, over 20 and 20 in points and rebounds. He's an absolute freak. And they have another big dude on there. I forget his name, but super athletic, jacked, huge. Kansas has the athletic ability, the strength, and the experience to beat teams like Kentucky. But what surprised me about this Kentucky team is that for their lack of experience, they looked pretty darn experienced, I guess you could say. They looked like they didn't look like they were freshmen, to say the least. That's why I think this Kentucky team can make a run, but Kansas is for sure the best team in the country right now. They actually should have lost this game, and that's when that's when the lack of experience did show for Kentucky. Was the last minute and a half of this game. They blew the game. They were winning. They should have won, and Kansas came back and beat them. So keep your eye on Kentucky, though, and Michigan State, 2 very good teams that I think are going to improve throughout the season. Kansas and Duke, top programs in the nation, have always been that way, and they still are. They're going to compete at a very high level this year and beat a lot of people. Okay. Josiah, did you want to say anything about those college basketball games, or are you ready to move on?
I am ready to move on.
All right, let's talk about NFL and the playoff picture. Okay, so the AFC, we've talked about the AFC being loaded. I think it's surprising to some people about who is where and standing wise. So right now, the number 1 seed is the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. 2 is Baltimore. They're 7-3, and that division is so good. The AFC North, everybody's got a winning record. But you also have Pittsburgh and Cleveland, who are in the playoff outlook right now.
Yeah.
And then you have Cincinnati Bengals, who are 5-4, looking out on the wild card. It's going to be close. Then your AFC division leaders, finishing it out, is the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins. I think Miami Dolphins win the AFC East. The Bills just fired their OC. They're not looking good. The Jets and the Patriots aren't going to catch them. The Jaguars, they look very good, but my goodness, the Houston Texans are right behind them, as well as the Indianapolis Colts. And I think the best chance to upset the Jacksonville Jaguars and win the AFC South is the Houston Texans. What are the rest of your thoughts on this, Josiah, on the AFC picture? By the way, the Houston Texans are in the wild card right now because they beat the Bengals, so they have the tiebreaker over the Bengals. So they would be in the playoffs right now. Crazy. So because it's the top 7 teams in the AFC, and that is Chiefs 1, Ravens 2, Jaguars, Dolphins, Steelers, Browns, Texans. Also, on the outside looking in, that are still in it, the Raiders. What? What?
Somehow still in it. And with their new coach, they might have a shot. A long shot, but a shot. The Bills still on the outside looking in. The Colts are on the outside looking in, and of course the Bengals. This AFC picture is pretty crazy. You theoretically could see the entire AFC North getting into the playoff. That would be insane. That's an insane division to play in. And huge credit to the Ravens for doing as well as they are. Of course, they're 2-2 in the division, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, this playoff picture is looking nuts. I can't wait to watch the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. A lot can happen still. There's a lot of season left. In the NFC, the Eagles are the 1 seed at 8-1. They are the best. They have the best record in the NFL right now. Then the Lions, 7-2, the 49ers, and the Saints. Those are your division leaders. The Saints are 5-5, but their division is trash. There you go. They can still get in with all the talk around Fresno, at least with Derek Carr and the struggles that he's had and the Saints have had. They're still in first in their division, and they can still get in the playoffs. Then you have rounding out the wild card is Seattle Seahawks, Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings. I think the scariest team on that is the Minnesota Vikings with Josh Dobbs. I do. I think some people would say that the Seattle Seahawks and the Cowboys are also very scary. I agree, but for some reason, these Vikings are sneaky. On the outside looking in, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're 4-5. They're just a game behind the Saints. You have the Commanders. They're 4-6. And you have the Falcons. They're 4-6. Buccaneers and Falcons are in the same division as the Saints. So we'll see how that goes. But after that, the NFC just gets real bad. And I mean, the NFC is already bad.
The NFC is definitely the weaker side of the NFL, for sure. I would not be surprised if an AFC team won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, though, the top teams in the NFC play. But division-wise, there's not going to be a bunch of races other than the Seahawks, 49ers, and then the probably Saints and Buccaneers.
The Falcons weirdly could give them a run for their money. They are 2-0 in their division. But
yeah.
that being said, I think it's time we move on to our latest little storyline. James Harden. James Harden, everybody.
Gosh.
Let's talk about this. So, Caleb, do you know how many games James Harden has played with the LA Clippers so far?
5.
That is correct. Do you know how many games they have won?
I do. It's a big goose egg.
Yes. It's a big fat 0. They are 0-5, guys. Exactly. I mean, come on, Clippers. Dude, you guys were doing fine. You were doing fine before he moved to your team, and now you're 0-5 since he has been there. Okay, you were 3-2 before he got there. Now you're 3-7. 3-7. That's awful. That's really bad. I mean, I get that there's a lot of basketball season left and there's chemistry issues or whatever, but there's not going to stop being chemistry issues because that's his problem every single year. That doesn't change, guys. Do you want to know James Harden's freaking stat line? This is not his stat line for each individual game. I added up all his stat lines from all 5 games he's played in, and this is his total stat line. So he's 24-51 for field goals. Didn't do 3-pointers. I don't care about those. 24-51 field goals, so that's slightly under 50%. Whatever, that's fine. 22 rebounds, whatever, that's fine. 21 assists, whatever, that's fine, I guess. 6 steals.
You know what? I'm going to say no. The rebounds, actually, that's fine. But 21 assists in 5 games with those players on the floor?
That's a good point, actually.
What?
Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I could get 21 assists in 5 games with those guys. I mean, I am not even kidding about that. You could put me on the court and I could get 5 assists passing to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That would not be hard. You give me 5 full-time games, dude, that wouldn't even be hard. No, yeah. He has 11 turnovers, which isn't great. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not great. But the real stat I want to talk about here, he's got 1 block. The real stat I want to talk about here is his plus minus. Okay? His plus minus for this team.
I just looked at it.
Total is minus 70. Since he has been at the Clippers, with him on the court, they are down by 70 points. That is an average of a plus minus of minus 14 every single game. And he is the only player on their entire team who has had a negative plus minus in all 5 of those games. He's the only player. Yes, every other player, including bench players, has had a positive plus minus at least once in that 5-game span. He hasn't.
I say no way, but I shouldn't be surprised. This is what we all said. Josiah and I, you said it because you know, you, the listener, you listening, you know. What,
yeah.
What else do we need? We don't need to say anything else. This is get him off the floor. Get him off the floor.
Seriously. Seriously.
You could say what you want about the refs last night again in their loss to the Nuggets in the NBA in-season tournament. You still lost. You shouldn't be in that position. Get James Harden off the floor, you win that game. It's that easy. I mean, Paul George had 35 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals last night. if James Harden wasn't on the floor, he has probably 45 points. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I know everyone's bitching and complaining about the refs last night in that game. I don't want to hear it. Get James Harden off the floor. That was their best game last night with James Harden. Last night they should have won.
It was. It was their best game, and it was James Harden's best game. But it doesn't matter. He still had a minus, a negative plus minus, and he has an overall plus minus of minus 70, dude. In 5 games, minus 70. That is so bad. It's laughably bad.
Yeah. All right, Josiah, do you care about the in-season tournament?
No.
I don't either. Other than there was a bunch of two fights in the in-season tournament. So if this is where everybody's gonna fight, cool. I'm all about it. I might actually watch it. But
now I care.
Right, I might actually go pay to watch that. Draymond Green tried to choke out. Draymond Green tried to choke out Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert's 7'2". He had to jump and get him in a headlock. It was absolutely hilarious. And Rudy Gobert was trying to break up the fight, and he got attacked. It was great. It was funny.
Dude, Draymond is hilarious. I'm not even gonna lie. That dude is.
It's great. I want him on my team. If he's gonna do that, I want him on my team.
I want him to play James Harden.
Oh gosh. Well, James Harden's really gonna have to wake up. Other than that, though, what even is this in-season tournament? Why? Just if you're going to do this, I understand what they're trying to do, but God, I don't care. Let's keep moving on, Josiah, because I got to get to work. But MLB, Shohei Ohtani is officially a free agent. Where is the best fit for him? Is it the Braves?
Yeah. It's the Braves. And I can give you at least 5 reasons why. 1, who doesn't want to be teammates with Ronald Acuna? 2, Atlanta, baby, let's go. 3, everyone loves Georgia. It's a great state. We have peaches.
Okay.
4, the Braves are good and could use a good pitcher. Shohei Ohtani is a good pitcher.
Okay.
That's pretty much the first legitimate reason. And 5, I think it'd be really cool. So for those 5 reasons, Shohei Ohtani should come to the Braves. And I think that I just need to put together a PowerPoint presentation and send it over to him. And I think I'll have him convinced.
That's a great pitch, Josiah. I think it'll work. I was going to pitch Shohei to the Giants, but Shohei's Japanese, and the Chinese and Japanese do not get along. And they cleaned up San Francisco for the Chinaman, Xi Jinping, the communist ruler. We won't clean up San Francisco for any other reason, but when the Chinese communist leader comes to town, Gavin Newsom cleans up the streets, cleans up the poop, moves the homeless, and you're not going to get someone from Japan over to a Chinese communist, to someone to a city who bends the knee to a Chinese communist. So
what does the poop map of San Francisco look like now?
There is none.
Is it not brown anymore?
No,
is the whole city of San Francisco no longer brown on the poop map?
I saw that, they consider like third world countries based on if there's like human feces lying around in this small area. And there were blocks of San Francisco that were considered third world based on how much human poop was on the street there. But they cleaned it up.
If you don't know what I was talking about, there was a map of San Francisco that people could go on and report sightings of human fecal matter on the streets. And when you zoomed out, the entirety of San Francisco was brown because all the little markers were brown. There were so many, you didn't even have to zoom out very far. Like, not at all. Just like get all of San Francisco in the picture, and the whole thing's brown. So
Awful. So my pitch to Shohei is over. I
just
don't
please,
want to see.
Shohei, don't go to San Francisco.
I don't want to see Ohtani in a Yankees uniform or a Dodgers uniform, some rich team that tries to get it done all the time. But I will say he does deserve to play for a good team. We'll see what happens, though. It's hard to say. Last thing, Yeovil Town update. Yeovil Town currently sitting in first place still in the National League North-South. Let's go with 41 points. 41 points for them. Second place team has 32. They're sitting pretty right now. Yesterday, they beat Farnborough 4-2, and Jordan Young, my guy, had a day with a hat trick. Way to go, Jordan Young.
Let's go.
Let's go, Yeovil. Go Glovers.
Go Glovers, baby.
All right. I got to get to work. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you give us a follow on X. I'm Caleb_dogs. Josiah is Josiah_WNV. We're also on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and the bell and give it a thumbs up. Why not? Comment down below. Where is Shohei Ohtani going to play baseball? That's
and
what
why
you do.
It's the Braves.
Yeah. All right, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.